Our next honorable mention on the Locked On Senators 2023 NHL Draft rankings is Jayden Perron from the USHL. He's small but mighty, and yes, he's going to the University of North Dakota.
I mean, as Ottawa Senators fans, that's usually a good sign that the Senators will have an eye on him. But for the rest of the league, any prospect that goes to North Dakota, you know they're going to get good development. And Jayden Perron is a guy that he certainly has the raw talent. So combine that with good development and head coach Brad Berry of Nodak. He's someone that focuses very much on a defensive game. And this could end up being a really well-rounded prospect, Ross.
Because he's coming in guns blazing. Out of all draft eligibles, he had the most points in the USHL this past season, 72 points in 61 games. That's 24 goals, 48 assists, and 18 penalty minutes. He's a Canadian. He's from Winnipeg, Manitoba, but he's coming back to the central area. I guess Chicago is pretty central, but coming right south from Winnipeg, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Next fall, he will be in attendance there. I've got a comparable that's very similar path that we'll get to a little bit later. But first, let's get to the 411. He's 5'9", listed at 163 pounds. Let's get that out of the way because teams are going to take notice. He's undersized. But that doesn't stop Scott Wheeler and the Elite Prospects team from ranking him as a first-round talent in this upcoming draft. Scott Wheeler has him 28th. Elite Prospects has him 29th. And then you basically have to get in your car and drive 30 miles until you get to the next ranking, which is Chris Peters at 52nd overall. HockeyProspect.com has him at 75th overall. Craig Button has him at 88th. And Corey Pronman, once again, very low on a player at 107th overall. But Pilsy, the team that gets Jayden Perron, what are they getting?
I mean, this is a kid with a lot of skill, and he put up 72 points in 61 games with the Chicago Steel in USHL last year. And what I found he did really well, Ross, is he opens himself up for great passes. Like on all the highlights I saw, he's right there with the players rushing the puck up the ice. And then he's able to find those soft areas where he can have a little space to be wide open for a nice pass. And then he's got a really nice shot too. But he's not so much a pure goal scorer or shooter, even though I just mentioned all that. He's really more of a creative playmaker. And what I liked about him is he's so patient with the puck. And he won't just kind of move things along for the sake of pace and getting the puck off his stick and then getting open. If he needs to, he'll hold on to that puck. He'll deke around. He'll be patient and he'll wait for something to come up. And I find that he's really good at that. And he doesn't really find himself in trouble holding on to the puck too long.
No, he's a manipulator, I think is the perfect way to put it. Like when he has the puck on his stick, he's the only person in the arena who knows where it's going to go next. He's able to kind of juke, shimmy, able to kind of do that. The old Daniel Alfredson move where he'll just like curl and give himself an extra half a second as he enters the zone. I think that's a part of it. And what you're looking at is just creative, cerebral, a guy who just, he knows where the puck needs to be next. And he's going to find you if you're there. I think he's a tremendous skill. Upside on this guy is unbelievable. I really think that if you get him in the right situation and he develops the way that a team hopes, you're going to be ecstatic with where you can get him in the draft based on the factor that we'll get to. He's undersized. He is, but if player comparable, the shades of at Elite Prospects, I'm not saying that Jayden Perron is going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy anytime soon, but they have it as Jonathan Marchessault, which I can see it. I can see just from watching a brief bit of highlights that, I mean, it's not that he's scared to get in the inside either. Like he doesn't play it to the perimeter. I think there's some guys who have bigger size than him who are a lot less likely to get to the dirty areas on the ice. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried. The standpoint that he's going to be a project, I'm not worried. And you know who I'm going to compare him to, Pillsy? A guy we went out of our way to make sure we put on our list after he played well with guess who last year? The Chicago Steel.
Okay.
Guess where he just finished his first freshman year? North Dakota. Jackson Blake.
Yeah. Yes.
Size, so much skill. And he was unreal this year. And his trajectory is just going to go up and up. And like Jackson Blake, watch. The Carolina Hurricanes are going to take him. They always draft the smaller, these guys like the Alex Nikushkin, or I believe that's Nikishin. Anyways, the Russian defenseman, his stock's gone all the way up. Gleb Trikazov went there. Like, they're not afraid to take these swings on players that they think, hey, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, they're going to be the best player in the draft. I really see the Carolina Hurricanes are going to take him, and it's going to really bother me.
Well, and Ross, that's the thing that I think some people get lost or gloss over with drafting and projections. You're not drafting this guy for what he is today, and you're not expecting him to be an impactful player on your NHL roster today. You're drafting these guys based on where you think they can end up and how you think you can develop them into more complete players. And I really think that Jayden Perron is a high risk, high reward guy, simply for the fact that if he's not able to gain more size, I don't think he'll be able to play and do the things he's able to do right now in the USHL with all that physicality and strength in the pros. And that's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. But if he's able to get a little bit more size, and if he's able to develop maybe to have a bit more of a defensive game, which I think is very likely that he can do that at Nodak, spend a couple of years there, then you're looking at a player that could turn into a really nice prospect. It might take time, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So I think Jayden Perron is going to end up being a late second rounder or early third round pick, because I think teams are going to see the potential here. And yeah, teams like you mentioned, Carolina, maybe a Seattle, teams that maybe a Pittsburgh now that Dubas is there, teams that really take a firm look at analytics and believe in that process, I think they're going to like Perron.
And the industry chatter that Elite Prospects has is right on that style. One of the scouts says it's like a few other players in the draft, like Andrew Cristal that we just talked about, Gabe Perreault we've talked about, where it's going to take someone who really likes him and believes in his ability over kind of the tools that are classic in the draft, like a David Edstrom, like these guys who just project, and you just know that they're going to play in the NHL. It's just how efficient they're going to be. There's a boom or bust element to Jayden Perron. He might not play more than 50 NHL games, or he might have 500 points. Like, I don't know. There might not be an in-between really for him. Maybe 200, maybe 500, setting the bar a little bit high. But I really, if he played his minor hockey in Winnipeg, I think he had 500 points in like 2 years. Like, this guy was a terror against his own age group. And I don't know. I keep going back to that Jackson Blake one where Jackson Blake ends up being like, he led his team in scoring in the USHL, and he played with Adam Fantilli, right, who was a year away. Well, guess what? Jayden Perron played with Macklin Celebrini, who's going to be the first overall pick next year. Like, it's very comparable to go 1-1, and then they both go to North Dakota. And guess what? Jackson Blake had 42 points in 39 games as a rookie. He went in the 4th round, 109th overall last year. If you do a redraft already, he's in the 2nd round at the very lowest. So I hope that he follows a similar trajectory, and I also hope that he plays on a line with Jackson Blake next year at Nodak.
Yeah, it would be a great kind of mentor to have for Jayden Perron for sure. And Ross, you mentioned shades of Marchessault. Guess what? He was undrafted, right? So, like, for these small guys, maybe it's disappointing. You're like, I feel like I'm better than some of these guys that draft ahead of me, but just because they had an early growth spurt or have taller parents and genes of people bigger in their family, they're getting picked ahead of me. Well, use that as fuel. Use that as a chip on your shoulder. And look, one day, if you put the work in, if you stay consistent, if you find ways to round out your game, you could end up winning the Conn Smythe trophy. Like, it's as simple as that. And obviously that's a long shot, but it's possible.
Despite ranking him 107th, Corey Pronman calls the skating above average, the shot above average, the puck skills and hockey sense and compete all average. I would say that the compete's higher than that. Sometimes maybe the work rate, it's more work rate versus production on the defensive side, like where he's in position, but maybe not pushing guys away off the puck and that sort of thing. But I do believe in the dynamic ability that Jayden Perron has. And to me, he's probably going to slip into the 3rd round. I really think he's going to slip into the 3rd round. A team's going to get him. And then in a year's time at North Dakota, when they don't rebuild, they reload at North Dakota. And I really think that they're going to put him on the right path, just like they did with Jackson Blake. So if your team reached and took him in the second round, maybe you left a little value on the board, but also we could be looking at this in a couple of years and saying, nope, that's right where he should have been. So if a team reaches up, I would say anywhere before 40, I would be like uncomfortable with it.
Yes.
But anywhere after 40, if you really like him or your team does, and you trust your hockey ops, there's a lot of high-end potential in Jayden Perron.
Yeah, I've got him somewhere in the 55 to 75 range. That's kind of where I'm looking at him.
Do you have a team that you like? I already said Carolina. I hate to say it, but I think Carolina. Wait, you did mention Pittsburgh.
And Seattle. I think those are all very analytically driven offices. So I think we could see them liking a guy like Jayden Perron.
I like a guy like Jayden Perron. Would love to have him in the Senator system. The hashtag #NoDaxSens need a reboot. And could it be with Jayden Perron? For more draft coverage, go head over to Locked On Senators on YouTube and check out Locked On Senators wherever you get your podcasts. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.